What I'd like to add to that is that for people for whom, for whatever reason, going through their trauma memories is not a good idea, that they don't want to, or it makes them feel worse, recognizing their survival can be a huge step. It actually helps to turn on structures in the brain that get turned off during trauma. To recognize that the trauma actually had an end.
Yeah. So you're talking about structures in the brain. Could you say a little bit more about how that
Sure.
works?
In the brain, there are two particular structures in the limbic system, which is the middle part of the brain, that are particularly relevant when we talk about trauma and post-traumatic stress. One is the amygdala that takes in information through the sensory system, all sorts of information from our external and internal environments, and tells the body how to respond. In the case of trauma, it recognizes danger and tells the body to either fight, flee, or freeze. Another structure, the hippocampus, is responsible for helping conscious thought and process factual information, including time and space. And it's the hippocampus that helps us mark any event with a beginning, a middle, and an end. When one is threatened, the amygdala goes into high gear to protect the body, protect the system. And one of the things it does is send hormones that actually knocks the hippocampus out of function, which is a really good thing, because then the hippocampus can tell the body what to do without there being any conscious thought involved. It's a very efficient method. If the hippocampus was functioning during a threat, there would be a belabored process of evaluating, is this actually a threat, what should I do, what are the options, etc. And by the time there was any kind of reaction, it might be too late. So the amygdala does a very smart thing by sending adrenaline, which suppresses the hippocampus and its function, so that it can get the body to respond without thought. A good example of that is the combat veteran or the soldier who's so well trained that all they have to do is hear gunfire and they're immediately on the ground in the most protective position without thinking about it. Okay. If they had to think about it, is that enemy fire, is that not enemy fire, etc., etc., they might already be done in.
Right.
So it's really a good thing. However, one of the consequences of this interaction between the amygdala and the hippocampus is that for some people, not for everybody, but for some people, the hippocampus is so knocked out of function that it doesn't return to normal function once the trauma is over and mark the end point of that horrible incident. So, and that's, as we've talked before, that's one of the major features of post-traumatic stress, that people's bodies and minds continue to respond as if the trauma continues. That's because the hippocampus wasn't able to do its job, or better put, wasn't able to return to its job after the danger was over. And so one of the things the practice of working with the epilogue first does is help the hippocampus back into function so that it can recognize the end of that event, help the person recognize that the event actually did end, which usually takes off a lot of pressure.
Mm-hmm. Okay.